Welcome back. Chinese President Xi Jinping reportedly calling President-elect Donald Trump to congratulate him on his election victory. Earlier today, Xi also urged both nations to find the, quote, right way to get along. China's foreign ministry spokesperson, meanwhile, saying that Beijing would work with the U.S. on the basis of mutual respect and that its, quote, policy toward the U.S. is consistent. Experts say a Trump win is a worst-case scenario for China, as Beijing is now bracing for higher tariffs. Here's what Trump told me on this program back in August about his plans to impose tariffs on China.
How do you use tariffs as a weapon for national security? And what other countries aside from China are
So
you
one of the
considering
things I
putting
want to do
tariffs
is
on?
have a reciprocal tax. Okay, if they charge us 100% of the car, we charge them 100%. Hard to believe that we haven't done this. Number one, I think they're great. You take in money. If China's charging us 100%, then we don't charge them anything. You know what happens? They say, we don't want your cars from America. We want you to build your factory in China or other countries. And it's not just China.
Are you considering putting tariffs on other countries in addition to China?
Yeah, sure. Any country that mistreats us. But what I want is a reciprocal act so that, because every country mistreats us, just so you understand. Every country, including our allies. Our allies are the worst.
And he was referring to European nations there. Joining me now is Gatestone Institute senior fellow and the author of Plan Red, China's project to destroy America. Gordon Chang back with us. Gordon, great to see you. What are you expecting in the way of policy from President-elect Trump once he gets into office with regard to China?
I expect tariffs. In his various conversations with you this year, going back to February, he has promised across the board tariffs on China of at least 60%. And he actually even mentioned 100% in one case. And that's absolutely required because the Chinese barriers to trade keep U.S. products out. They force us to transfer technology. We've been doing this for decades. This has not worked to our benefit. And clearly, we need a new way of trade with China.
Yeah, I mean, at a minimum, how about a response to some of this behavior? I mean, we're learning about this Chinese-tied hacking group now, Salt Typhoon. It appears to have had the ability to access the phone data of virtually any American who's a customer of a compromised carrier. And those compromised carriers include AT&T and Verizon, according to the Wall Street Journal. The hacking group reportedly limited their targets to several dozen select high-value national security and political figures, such as President-elect Trump, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, and members of Vice President Harris's campaign. The hackers have been burrowed deep into the U.S. telecom infrastructure for over 8 months, Gordon, or even longer than that. They've been able to scoop up cellular call logs, which contain information on who Americans talk to, how often, when, and detailed location data, as well as unencrypted texts and some audio from Americans, Gordon. I mean, what are your thoughts on this, and how should have the Biden administration's reacted? I don't think we've reacted at all.
We haven't reacted at all. These are our networks, Maria, and they are relatively undefended. So this is up to us. And we need to start imposing costs on China for doing this. And one of those costs could very well be tariffs. Tariffs work for a lot of national security issues, as you were talking about with President Trump. And this is really appropriate. We don't want to hack back because we don't want to show them our capabilities because we want to save that for a wartime setting. So the way you do this is asymmetry. We do something else. So they hack us. We want to impose costs. Let's do tariffs. Let's do some restrictions. Roger Robinson talks about all sorts of investment restrictions that we should be imposing on China. And one of them that he mentioned is, let's go back to President Trump's plan of having the Pentagon enforce capital market restrictions, not the Treasury.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Roger Robinson, of course, worked on these issues in the Reagan administration. He joined us for our special on Fox Nation, Underwriting the Enemy, and pointed out all of those Chinese companies and these stocks traded on our exchanges. Meanwhile, the behavior of China is getting more and more well known by the American people. I mean, UK pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca is now saying that its executive vice president in charge of China and the broader Asian region is currently being detained by Chinese authorities while Beijing probes other company employees. AstraZeneca said last week that he was cooperating with an investigation in China, Gordon, but this is very much in step with the way Chinese law works. They put all these national security laws down when they went in and took over in Hong Kong, and that enables Chinese executives to walk into any company and raid the place, and now they're detaining someone from this UK company, AstraZeneca. Your reaction?
Yes, this is an extremely interesting situation. The Chinese pharmaceutical industry is probably the most or among the most corrupt industries in China, which is one of the most corrupt business environments in the world. So there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
But I think what's happening is that the regime is picking out a foreign company because they believe pharmaceuticals are high tech, and they want to get the foreigners out of the Chinese market.
Wow.
So they're picking on AstraZeneca because I think they probably don't want to pick on an American company because they realized that there was a possibility of President Trump coming back, and that was the last thing they wanted to happen. So I think they went for an easy target. But really, the story here is it's an anti-foreign campaign. Beijing is doing all of it can. And clearly what we're seeing right now is just predatory conduct on the part of the Chinese.
Yeah, and don't forget, we already have the underlying ingredients for our prescription drugs in America being made in China. So we're still reliant on that supply chain. Todd Pyro, jump in.
Big picture here, Gordon. Excuse me. Should Donald Trump just play his own game with the way he wants to approach China, and the consequences to China will then follow suit? Or should we go on offense with regard to China the way that they always poke the bear with us?
Well, I think it's really going to be the same thing because President Trump will go on the offense because he will want to protect our markets. He will want to make sure that we are treated fairly. And as at that clip that Maria just played, he demands reciprocity. And the one thing the Chinese have not given us is reciprocity. So I do believe that we are going to see China back away because they realize that they've been getting away with murder for a very long time, and they will not be able to do that under a second Trump administration.